Danville is a small rural farming community about 15 minutes outside of Burlington. We're right on Highway 34 between Burlington and Mount Pleasant. Our pen pal exchange began with Miss Birdie Matthews, an innovative Iowa educator who spent her summers traveling abroad. She went to Europe on occasion and also studied in New York just to bring big city life back to her students in Danville. And in 1939, they started a international correspondence exchange program, she called it, and the students were excited about a pen pal exchange. And one day, names arrived from Amsterdam, and Juanita Wagner picked out the name of Anne Frank. Juanita wrote a letter right away, as well as her sister Betty. I'm sure just telling about Danville, the rural community they lived in, and what they did for fun here in Danville. April 29, 1940, a letter was received from both Anne and Margot to Juanita and her sister Betty, telling about life in Amsterdam. Anne was obviously a very carefree little girl as she wrote her letter. Margot was more aware of what was happening in Amsterdam at that time and talked about not being able to travel to see her cousins in Switzerland because the borders were shut off at that time.
I can remember how excited we were. Eventually we got a letter back from the girls. Had a postal card. It had their school pictures, the same one that you see on the Anne Frank diary. The Germans had gone into Holland within a few weeks after that correspondence came in 1939. So we knew that we might never hear from them again, and we never didn't know what was happening. I can remember that we'd talk about Anne and Margot and wonder how they were doing. And I was in Rock Island, Illinois, teaching in a country school. And I wrote a letter to Anne and Margot at the address that we had. I didn't even know if they would get the letter or if where they lived was still there. I had no idea. And it took about 3 or 4 months, and I got a letter back from their father, Otto, just telling about what had happened to them during the war and how they had hidden in the attic and how hard it was on Anne.
We really want to make this an educational experience for people to come to Danville and learn about the Pen Pal Exchange and about the Holocaust, that children will learn about it and remember it, that a situation like this will never ever happen again.
We want to get 1.5 million postcards to represent all the children that died in the Holocaust.
Well, I had the opportunity to visit Danville in the fall, and when that came up about during the Quad Cities Holocaust Education Committee meeting, I said sure I could. I'm newly retired and I had time that I could do it. So I was able to go to the Danville station, to the school, talk to the kids' teachers and find out about the project that they were doing with Anne Frank. And at that time they had not told the kids about the postcard project that was going to come at the end of the unit as kind of like the big finish. And I thought that was very exciting because, again, I think 1.5 million is a number that almost defies a picture in our brain. And to know that those would be human beings who aren't here today, or their children aren't here today, grandchildren aren't here today, to have made a better world for us.
Well, when our teachers told us about the project, they told us that we were going to have a committee, and I really wanted to do it.
The 1.5 million postcard idea came from our teachers who have been having us study the Holocaust throughout the year and had us read Anne Frank's novel, and it said that she collected postcards, so we decided that we would do that to represent the 1.5 million children killed in the Holocaust.
Right now we've sent to Jewish schools all around the country, and we're planning to send to Jewish schools all around the nation and public schools in the country, and to get their students to write back to us with their feelings about tolerance and acceptance, and or even just their connection to the Holocaust or what they know about it. We've received postcards from 3 different Jewish schools, 1 in California and maybe a couple in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. We got some from China and some from, and we got some other ones from Ukraine also.
I'm the extended learning teacher for our middle schools in Burlington, and I had one of my colleagues approach me one morning as I was walking to my classroom and said, last night at a class I just met this woman, Deb Bowen, the owner of A Book by Me, and she was talking about this amazing opportunity that she has for students to tell these stories and write these books. And he said, you know, I gave her your information, contact her, she's expecting to hear from you. So I immediately contacted Deb, and she told me about this amazing story about Juanita Wagner and her pen pal, Anne Frank. I honestly can say as a teacher, I had never heard this story before either. And we are, you know, it's very close to us. And I thought right away of these two students, the Haleys, because especially I knew Haley Vallant was really interested in becoming a published author, and then both of them were working with me on writing assignments in my classroom.
Our book is Oceans Apart, and I wrote it with my friend Haley. And our book is about Juanita and Anne Frank. They were pen pals, and about Juanita's experience sending the letters to Anne and learning about her and sharing her experiences.
When we found out about it, we knew we wanted to tell it from Juanita's point of view. I don't think we really ever thought about writing it any other way. We just kind of started in right on the first person point of view. And so we studied some materials that Deb had sent us, and we went to the museum in Danville to learn more about it as we were writing.
In one of the letters, Anne had mentioned that she saw Burlington on the map, and you never think that the small town that you're from could have such a big connection to a big person. And I found that really interesting, and I thought that it would be neat to write about that and let other people know.
I would like us to be able to expand this museum because I would like to be able to take more of my students there to learn more about the story. I am excited to share my students' book with other students so that they can see, you know, that this is something that, you know, if this is something that's in your heart and this is something that you believe in, you can make a difference in some way.